Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah with Harrisburg Project. First, I just want to make sure that I have audio and that everyone can hear me. So if somebody can just type in a yes if you hear me. All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I always hate to get started and carry on and someone say we can't hear you. So, all right, today we're going to go over the child count certification. I'm going to show you how you do that, who needs to do it, when, all those good things. The big thing you need to remember about this is that you cannot do it today. You cannot do it yet. I do like to at least offer this training early though, so you're able to inform those who are responsible of what is expected. The big thing with this is that by the time that your district superintendent or whoever they designate is ready to certify or verify the numbers, they cannot make changes. And so that's why I like to at least have one training early so you know what the expectations are. You can pass that along and then give those people the opportunity to look at the data now. The whole point is that the data should be reviewed in January and February leading up to the actual due date. So you'll have through February 21st to change this data. So we want them looking at those numbers now, but we also want them to know why we want them to look. And so we want them to know what the expectation is. Once the final snapshot is taken, the data year is closed, or I'm sorry, the child count is closed. And then we open that up for the superintendents to come in and certify that number. So that's why I do offer this early, but again, you cannot perform the action now. If you have any questions through the session today, just let me know in the questions pod. You can ask them throughout the session. You don't have to wait until the end. Also, I uploaded your handout, so if you were not able to get that previously, you can get that in your GoToWebinar menu. If you don't see the menu, you should see an orange arrow. Click on that and it will open up your menu and you'll see the handout there. So we will go ahead and get started. Remember, if you do have any questions, just type them in that questions pod. I'm happy to answer. So first, we'll talk about who needs to perform the certification. We'll go over the snapshots that are happening now and the final due dates, how you can get iStar access. Then we'll look at how you can navigate the display for the child count area that is showing, how to approve the child count in iStar. So that would be how we actually certify or verify that number. And then we'll talk about the failure consequences. We've never had anyone fail to perform the child count. Every district has always done it. Sometimes we have a lot on the last day, but we have managed to get everyone in before the close of business. And then, of course, how you're going to get support or help from us if you need that. So who needs to perform the child count certification? Currently, it's the district superintendent or someone that they authorize to do that. So if someone has district admin access in IWAS and they are a district security admin in iStar, then they are able to also perform that certification. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the district superintendent, but it has to be a district representative. So your co-op cannot do this on your behalf with a co-op account. So you need to make sure that if you are a data manager, that you are talking to the people that will be doing the certification now. Make sure that they're watching the numbers, that they are okay with the numbers, that they agree with the direction that the count is heading. All right. So if you want, if a district superintendent wants to designate their special ed director to do this, that's fine. Just have to make sure that they have the proper credentials in the system, and most likely they do. All right. All right, so what are we looking at for our snapshot dates? When do we need to make sure that our data is accurate and ready to go? And then when is the certification going to open? So right now, you want to make sure, of course, you have iStar access, all those good things. Come to these trainings. And then we've already had one preliminary snapshot. So essentially on every Friday now at 7 a.m., ISB is running the child count process. It's not the final, but what they do is run through the entire process. It's like a mock run through, and they display every Friday the count that it would be if they took it that day. So our next one will be tomorrow at 7 a.m. So if you looked last Friday, and you've reviewed that number and you've done some work in the past week to change that, then you should see that reflected tomorrow morning when they take that new snapshot. Again, these are just preliminary snapshots to help you. So you'll notice when you look on that child count certification tab that you're going to see the current child count, those preliminary snaps, and then you'll see the previous 2 final snapshots from the last 2 school years. So you're able to compare them to something. So right now is the time, each Friday, come in and look. So if you are working with the superintendent or your special ed director, whoever is going to be certifying this number, then you want them to be aware of what's going on with these numbers. It can be as simple as sending them an email and saying, hey, this is where we're at. You know, maybe identify some things you might be missing or some things that you are going to be adding or things like that. Or say, I think my data is in good shape. Do you see an issue with the discrepancies or anything like that? So is the number going to be the same from year to year? It's not going to be exactly the same from year to year. It might, but more than likely you're going to waver a little bit. But if you are, you know, high or low by 100 or 200 records, then you're going to want to know, is there a cause for this? Is this legitimate? Or am I missing a slew of kids? Am I missing a whole class? Am I missing a school? Those kinds of things. So that's what you want to look at during this time period, January and February, in between these preliminary snapshots. So after February 21st, you will not be able to edit your snapshot at all. So that's the final date. ISB will take a snapshot the next morning, but you will be locked out of the system at that point. So you have through February 21st at 11:59 p.m. to work on this data. Then we do a temporary lockout, so ISB can look over the data, look to see if there are any errors that they are able to resolve for you. So the majority of the time when we are working on the data during that lockout, you will only see improvements to your count. The only time you would see a possible decrease in your count is at the very end of the process that ISB does. They will do a process where they look for duplicate records. And so why would you have duplicate records for students? Well, one example is you have a student that goes to a therapeutic day school and they also reside there. So they would have 2 possibly Fund B records. We don't want to count those both. They aren't 2 children, they're just 2 records. And so at the very end of the process for ISB, they run through that query where they make sure that they pull out any duplicate students. So there's a possibility that your count may go down, but it should, because in reality, you don't have that many students. But otherwise, we look to resolve sys errors, things like that, that we might be able to have a little bit of control over once we're able to analyze the data. So at the latest, the system will reopen on March 7th. So during this time period, you're going to be locked out of these student approvals in iStar. You'll be able to view them, but you will not be able to edit them until, again, ISB has finalized everything in the count. So once that's complete, it's almost always less than the 14 days set aside. So at the latest, your superintendents or whoever they designate will be able to certify starting on March 8th, and it's due by close of business on the 22nd. So at the latest, it will open March 8th. As soon as it does open, if it's earlier, we will announce that in a special message to you, whether it be our news briefing, because that's the way it falls, or we may have to provide a special email. Okay, but we will let you know if it opens sooner than March 8th. In years past, we've always opened it sooner than what was published, but at the latest, it will be March 8th. And again, you have to have the certification done by March 22nd, close of business. So where do you go in iStar? If you've never been in the system, we have a lot of new superintendents from year to year that have never done this before. So what you're going to be doing is logging into iWAS. You're going to look under system listing, reporting, special ed, and you're going to look for iStar. All district superintendents have full access to iStar automatically with their district admin IWAS account. So they will not have to request access for iStar. Now, if you have, I know that there are times when superintendents may come and go throughout this in the middle of the school year. So if that has happened and they log in and don't see everything, then give us a call. We'll figure it out. But for the most part, existing superintendents should already have full access. So once they click on iStar, they're going to be on the landing page, and we're looking for the current child count status button. So they will click on that, and then it will show what your count is currently and the previous 2 years. So this 23-24 count is going to change possibly every Friday with these new preliminary snapshots that we're taking. Okay, so they're looking at this 23-24 count. And again, they have the previous 2 school years to compare to. So what are we counting? What is the December 1 child count? They have to be approved in iStar, so you can't have any errors on the records. The include in approval has to be checked. This is checked by default, but sometimes you may make a mistake and not realize that you have a student unchecked. Okay, and then they have to be active on December 1st of 2023. So what does that mean? That means if you had a student that started in August on the first day of school and they left October 30th, they will not be on the count. That means that if you had a student that started on December 2nd, they will not be in the count. Okay? They have to have an active record on December 1st to be in the count. So you can click on your district and see some statistical data about the count that we're looking at. These statistics may not mean a lot to you during the process, but this is something that I access with a lot of districts later in the year. And the most popular one for me and other districts is the first grid here on educational environment. This is very helpful for us when we're looking at LEA determinations, specifically for 5A and 6A. So I use that a lot when I'm working with districts that are non-compliant or get compliance letters in September. We look at this a lot. You're also going to see numbers by disability, and if you continue to scroll down the screen, you'll see a breakdown by fund, ethnicity, and age. So I think that the first grid is the most helpful, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to find these other areas useful also. Okay, we have a good question in relation to December 1. So if we have errors that are dated after December 1, so the records are not active on December 1st, those errors do not have to be error-free for the pickup. We are only looking at error-free records that are active on December 1st for the count. Okay, so the next question, how do we get this report? So when you're looking at your district, you click on the district name. So I've got it marked out because I had some trouble getting screenshots this year that were from my demo. So you're going to click on the district name. So in the example here, you are a co-op, and so you're going to see all your districts that you're responsible for. So you can click on any of them. We were looking at it from a district perspective. From a co-op perspective, you will be able to view all of this data for the districts you're responsible for, but you just can't do the certification for them. So you're clicking on that child count status button on the landing page to get this. Then you click on the district name and it gives you the breakdown. So how do you look at the snapshot report every week? So I've showed you what the numbers are. How do you see what students you're looking at? For that, you're going to go up to reports, and this is an application report. So it's going to be the first bar that you want to select. The type is student. Your categories, let it stay on the default of approvals. You're looking at the child count snapshot by resident district. So it's an export. You can only get it in an Excel file, and you'll be able to look at the students that we are putting in the count. So the students here will match the count that you see each week. So each time we do a preliminary snapshot, this report updates. If you do data entry throughout the week between those preliminary snapshots, this report will not change. So if you want to see your progress throughout the week, run the report above. Approvals reported for child count. So let me say that again. If you looked at your count last Friday on the 12th and then said, okay, there are some things I need to do, you need to run this report right above to see that reflected, because you're not going to see that reflected on the snapshot report until tomorrow after they take the second snapshot. All right. And then when the final snapshot is taken and the system is ready for certification, this report will never change. So it will be the final report, and then it will be something that you can come back in future years to access. So we have a lot of questions right now about the IEP ratio report that's being requested from your Medicaid vendor. We can give you the report. This is it. And you change your school year down below to 21-22. Okay, so that's the report that they're asking for. And it will be here because, again, it does not change. It remains stagnant once we take that final snapshot. Okay, so here is where you can change your filter for the school year. These are the 3 years that you're going to see in your grid for the child count snapshots. So if you want to compare those, you can. It will default, of course, to the current school year and the current snapshot that was taken Friday. Okay, you have to come into iStar to check the snapshot. It's not something we send to you. So you come into iStar and you click on that button, the child count status button, and that's where you look to see what the count was. So we aren't sending anything to you. You have to come in and look in iStar. All right, so when the time comes, how does your superintendent or the person they designate actually verify the number? So what you will do is click on the district name. When you do that, you'll see those grids with all the breakdowns of the numbers, all those statistics. You scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see a button that says verify child count numbers. They click that button and they're done. That's all they need to do. So once that happens, your grid will then update to where it'll go from not verified status to verified, and it will tell the IWAS user ID of the person who did the verification with the date. So if I did it, my IWAS ID is S. Nelly, you would see this verified status, verified by S. Nelly, and then the date that I did the verification. Okay? So for all of this discussion and all this talk, this is all that they have to do. Okay, so if we can just get the responsible parties into the system, click the button, click the district, click the verify button, and that's complete. So that's the entire process as far as actually performing the verification. So if the child count is not verified by March 22nd, close of business, it could result in frozen funding. We, again, have never had this happen. There's plenty of time right now to go over this count to make sure that everyone agrees with it. You just have to have the proper parties involved now in January and February before February 21st, because they will not allow you to change that count after the February 21st due date. Okay, we've had districts ask well into the certification period, and it's always been denied. So there have never been any exceptions to this. The number that exists when we open this up for verification is the number that has to be verified. So I cannot, impress the importance of having these people involved right now through February before the 21st to make sure that they like the direction of the number, because essentially they're going to be forced to certify that number by March 22nd. Okay, any other questions? We've had some good questions so far. I did change this up a little bit and did show it from a district perspective this year. Previous years, I've had it from a co-op's perspective just to show the difference. So I didn't include as many co-op screens. Right now, currently, I know we've had a lot of questions and things have been raised at different meetings that I've been at about allowing the co-ops to be able to perform the certification. Right now, that's not something that we can do. It's not in the federal regulations to allow that. Doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. But right now, the co-ops cannot approve the number for the districts. So, all right. So we have a question about an overlap error. Who is the overlap? Who is the overlap with? Okay, and February 21st is the deadline for superintendents to certify, not March 22nd. No. February 21st is the due date for the data. So you have to have all the data entered and completed by February 21st. Then at the latest, March 8th, we'll open up the certification, and that has to be done by March 22nd. All right, so the overlap is with Chicago Public Schools. So they will be working on overlaps here in a few weeks. They do not enter their data the same as everyone else in the district. They do big batch files from another system in a file format. Once they are done with their final upload, then they come into the system and resolve overlaps. So they will do that. It's just a matter of time. And she's always very good about getting those completed. So once they are at that process where they're working inside iStar, they will start to work on the overlaps. And honestly, some of they're not complete with their uploads, so the upload may resolve that anyway. So they may take that student out in their next upload. So again, I want to stress that data entry is due for this by 11:59 p.m. on February 22nd. After that, there's a lockout period where ISB works with the data. We finalize it. They take a final snapshot. Then it's open to the superintendents for certification. The certification is due March 22nd. All right, CPS does not upload monthly. They have a different schedule that they work with our IT team at ISB. So they do not upload monthly. It's not a set schedule. So again, it may resolve with their next upload, or they may have to work on that overlap once they start working in the iStar system. But they will get it done. And yes, okay, as a co-op, are we able to see when the districts verify their child count? So yes, you are. So your grid will look similar to this, but you're going to have more districts, obviously. So there will be a list of district names, and you'll be able to see the status over on the right-hand side. So yes, you can keep track and see if they're doing it or not. Okay, the certification will not open until at the latest March 8th. So the time period is you work on the data now, you finalize it by February 21st. You can't make changes after that. Then we set aside a 2-week window where the system is locked and ISB works to perfect the data. Then when they're finished with that, the final snapshot is taken, it's posted, and then that is when the district superintendents come in to certify. We set aside 14 days for that ISB lockout. It's never taken that long. So at the latest, the superintendents will be able to come in March 8th through March 22nd to do the certification. But usually we're able to open it earlier because ISB doesn't need the full 14-day window. So the data is due February 21st, and then they have to have the certification done March 22nd. So if you're going to prepare something to send to the superintendents, I would tell them it will be available March 8th. If you need to tell them something now, it will be available March 8th and it will be due March 22nd. But more than likely it would probably open before the 8th. Okay. I'll take any more questions. Don't have any right now. Okay, I don't see anything coming in, so I will let you guys get. Please call or email us if you have any questions at all during this process. If you're still unclear on it, please just ask us. We're happy to help. We want to make sure that you understand and that you're able to relay that on to your superintendents to let them know what is expected over the next couple of months. So remember to reach out to us if you need to, and I will see everyone next week, hopefully at the error correction session. So thank you guys. Bye-bye.